In this section, we're going to be doing an introduction on JavaScripting in TIA Portal. So if you're following along with the video, open your JavaScripting screen and we'll do a couple of quick examples. We'll start by placing a button on the screen and a simple shape, say an ellipse. And the goal is to just change a property of the ellipse. Before we get into scripting, let's take a look at the properties of the ellipse and find one we'd like to change. So let's just start with visibility. Visibility is a Boolean function, and 0 means it is not visible and 1 means it is visible. If you remember from a previous lesson, the property names shown on the listing aren't necessarily the name you use in scripting to access the property of an object. In order to find the right name, it's a good idea to right-click on the property name and choose Copy Property Name. So we'll go ahead and do that. Going back to the button, we will just place the text Show Shape, and on events, we'll use the click left mouse event. And first I'm just going to do a project function. So I'll access the function list, go to screens, and we'll do SetPropertyValue. The screen object path is the object name that we want to change. So we'll choose screen object and then access our list and just choose ellipse 1. The property name, there is no browser for that. So we will just paste in, I use Control V, and you can see the name of the property is actually visible. We'll set this to 1, which by default it's already 1. And so now we're going to just copy this button and paste it. And then on the button, we will change this to hide shape. And then on events, we will just change this to 0. That way we can both show and hide the ellipse. So we'll save and go to runtime. In runtime, we'll go to our JavaScript screen, and the ellipse is already showing, so nothing's going to happen here. I'll click Hide Shape, and it sets the visible property to 0, and we can't see it. Then we click Show, and it comes back. So that's a pretty simple example, but I want to show you something. Going back to our Show Shape button, notice that we have a JavaScript button, and if you mouse over it, it says converts the function list to a script. If we click that, it will actually take the settings and convert it to the equivalent JavaScript. So you can see that we have a function name, and then it's put in some code, HMI runtime.UI sysfunc, that's system functions. So SetPropertyValue is a function, and it takes 3 arguments: the name of the object that you want to change, the property that you want to change, and the value that you want to change it to. Now, you cannot convert from JavaScript back to your system functions, but you can definitely convert system functions right into JavaScript. So now let's do something a little more useful. Instead of having 2 buttons, one to show the shape and one to hide it, we want to make a toggle shape. So if it's not visible, pressing the button will make it visible. And if it's visible, pressing the button will make it invisible. So I'm just going to copy one of these buttons. And for the text, I'll just change this to toggle shape. And then going to events, we can look at our code here, and I'm going to give us a little bit of room. And what we need to do is somehow find out what the property value of visible is, and then flip it, and then write that back to the property. So here's kind of a quick course in how to do variables and how to do a few simple things. So in JavaScript, traditionally you use var for a variable. Now it's best practices to use either let or constant. So we'll just say let vis equal, and we have to go ask the object, in this case ellipse 1, what the value of its visible properties are going to be. So I'm going to click here, and we have this button that says autocomplete, and it's going to give us a list. And you're going to find out a little later in the course is our object model. But I want to get an object on a screen, so I'll start with screen. I'll do a dot, and we're going to scroll down, and there is FindItem. This blue icon here indicates that this is a function, so I'll just click that. And FindItem is just a function, and as I type in some of the syntax, it's going to tell me what we want. And it's looking for the name of an object. And so In this case, I know that it's ellipse 1, so I can just copy it. Also notice on the system function it's using double quotes. Best practices now say to use single quotes, so I'll use single quotes where I can. I can now put a dot and we'll get a list of properties. I'll just type a V and it'll show me visible. And then we're going to end every line with a semicolon. So the way this works is we're creating a variable called viz, and we're putting into it the value of what the visible property is. So if the visible is a 1, then viz is going to be a 1. If you have done PLC programming or some type of SCADA programming, you probably know about the not function. And so what I'll do is just put in not, which is an exclamation point in most languages, and viz. And so this not function here, if viz is 1, then the value of this expression will be 0 and vice versa. And we can use double slashes to put in comments. And so now we have some nice comments for someone coming behind us. Now, if you want to check your syntax, there is a quick syntax check here. We'll click that, and it's not showing us any errors. So we can just go check this out in runtime. So back in runtime, we can press our toggle shape and we can make the ellipse appear or disappear using only one button. So going back to the engineering software, let's do a few more examples using our auto completion functions. So I'll add another button, and on the text, I'm just going to mark it change color, and on events, I'm just going to hit the JavaScript button. I'll just go ahead and hit the auto completion, and under screen I will do my find item, and this is case sensitive, so make sure if you don't select it that you're typing it correctly. And I'll just fill in my ellipse 1, and this shows us a list of properties. We'll just change the back color. Now, what value do we need to put in here? Well, color is typically a component of red, green, and blue, and sometimes alpha. So how do we do that? We'll go back to our auto completion, and under HMI Runtime, there is a math section. This has some functions, and RGB is one of these. So we'll select RGB, and if we want to know what it's expecting as far as parameters, we would just go ahead and put in our left parenthesis. And RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and there's also an alpha, and you can see the description of your parameters. So we have a red component, a green component, and a blue component, and then your alpha or opacity is 0 to 1. The values of red, green, and blue are 0 to 255. So if we just wanted to make it red, we could just do 255, and notice as I put my comma, then it shifts to which parameter I'm currently entering. I'll do 0 for green, 0 for blue, and alpha is optional, so I'm not going to do an alpha, and I'll put a semicolon. So now let's go to runtime and see if this works. I'll save the project and go to runtime. So back on our JavaScript screen, we'll press our change color button, and it indeed does turn red. So going back to the engineering software, I have a challenge for you. Place a text box on the screen and a button, and change the text shown in the text box to Hello World. Go ahead and pause the video and complete the challenge, and then I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is on the button, I'm going to change the label to change text. And on our text box, I'd like to give it a meaningful name. By default, it's text box 2. And I'll just call this text debug. The reason I'm calling it debug is we're going to be doing a small project that allows us to have a debug window where we can write to from a script in order to tell what's going on in the script and to troubleshoot. But for now, we're just going to show that we can change the text in the text box. So the name of the text box is text debug. Go to your button, go to events, and we'll go to JavaScript, and we'll just hit the auto completion button, and we can choose screen, dot, and we're looking for find item, and I'll just type in the name. And then we're looking for the text property. Again, this is case sensitive. And I'll put in the text. Then we'll save this and go to runtime. And the text has changed to Hello World. In the next section, we're going to learn more about the object model and how to take advantage of that, learn how to read and write tags, and add some more to our debug window project.